if the greatest car chase ever filmed was directed by a junkyard owner with no film experience? What if he destroyed 93 cars using his own money and nearly died 6 times? What if the star, director, and stuntman were all the same person? This isn't Hollywood magic. It's a $70,000 gamble that became a cult phenomenon and inspired Nicolas Cage's remake. The 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 hides truths that'll shock even gearhead cinema fanatics. Number 20. H.B. Halicki had 0 film experience and bought cameras at a pawn shop. Here's something that'll blow your mind. H.B. Toby. Halicki had never worked in professional filmmaking when he decided to write, direct, produce, star in, and perform all stunts for Gone in 60 seconds. He owned a successful junkyard and auto salvage business in Long Beach, California, accumulating wealth through buying wrecked cars, parting them out, and reselling components. In 1972, Halicki walked into a Los Angeles pawn shop and purchased 3 used 16mm cameras for $2,000 total, having no idea how to operate them. He spent 6 weeks teaching himself basic cinematography by filming cars around his junkyard, wasting approximately 40 rolls of film on unusable footage. Halicki's wife Marion initially thought his movie idea was a midlife crisis and begged him to forget the whole plan. But Halicki mortgaged his junkyard property, withdrew his entire savings of $68,000, and began production in January 1973, despite having no script, no crew, and no distribution deal. Industry professionals who heard about the project assumed Halicki would waste his money and quit within weeks. Instead, he created one of the most profitable independent films in history, proving that obsession and recklessness sometimes beat formal training. Number 19. The entire film cost $74,000 and earned over $40 million, worldwide, moving on to financial insanity. Halicki's total production budget for Gone in 60 seconds, including cameras, film stock, vehicle purchases, insurance, and a tiny crew salary fund, totaled exactly $74,200 according to his personal accounting records. He shot the film across 14 months, from January 1973 through March 1974, working weekends and evenings while still operating his junkyard business during weekdays. Halicki couldn't afford proper lighting equipment, so he filmed almost exclusively during daytime hours using natural sunlight. He couldn't hire professional actors, so he cast his mother, his brothers, and various junkyard employees and customers in speaking roles. The film had virtually no budget for locations, so Halicki simply filmed wherever he wanted without permits, guerrilla style, assuming he could talk his way out of trouble if caught. After completing the rough cut, he screened it at a single theater in Long Beach in July 1974, where word of mouth turned it into a phenomenon. The film eventually grossed over $40 million worldwide through theatrical releases, drive-in circuits, and home video sales, generating a return of approximately 54,000% on Halicki's investment and making him independently wealthy for life. Number 18. The yellow Mustang Mach 1, called Eleanor, was Halicki's personal daily driver. And get this, the 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1 that became the film's iconic star vehicle wasn't a movie prop or a specially prepared stunt car. It was Halicki's actual personal vehicle that he drove to work every day before production began. He purchased the Mustang brand new in late 1972 for $4,300, ordering it in medium yellow gold metallic paint, specifically because he thought the color photographed well in sunlight. Halicki named the car Eleanor after his first girlfriend from high school, inscribing the name on his mental list of cars to eventually steal for the movie. The Mustang featured a 351 cubic inch Cleveland VI8 engine producing 248 horsepower, 4-speed manual transmission, and competition suspension package. For 9 months, Halicki drove Eleanor normally, accumulating 12,000 miles on the odometer while planning his film. When production started, he simply pointed cameras at his own car and began filming without any modifications except removing the front license plate for aesthetic reasons. The car survived the entire 40-minute chase sequence with surprisingly minimal damage, requiring only suspension repairs, brake replacement, and bodywork after filming concluded. Halicki kept Eleanor until his death in 1989, refusing multiple six-figure offers from collectors who wanted to own cinema history. Number 17. Halicki destroyed 93 actual vehicles during filming and owned every single one. But here's where production madness escalated. H.B. Halicki personally owned every single vehicle destroyed during Gone in 60 Seconds, having acquired 93 cars specifically for crash scenes through his junkyard business. He purchased wrecked, damaged, or mechanically failed vehicles at salvage auctions for an average of $150 each, then repaired them just enough to run under their own power for filming. Halicki refused to use static mock-ups or miniatures, insisting that authentic full-speed collisions created visceral realism impossible to achieve with special effects. The destroyed vehicles included 42 sedans, 28 pickup trucks, 17 sports cars, and 6 police interceptors that Halicki bought at government surplus auctions. He conducted 0 test runs or rehearsals for collision sequences, instead filming every crash on the first take because he couldn't afford to wreck multiple vehicles for the same scene. Several crashes went wildly wrong, with cars flipping unexpectedly or veering off intended paths. But Halicki kept these mistakes in the final cut because he thought they looked more exciting than planned stunts. Insurance companies refused to underwrite the production after reviewing Halicki's plans, so he operated completely uninsured, personally liable for any injuries or property damage during filming. Number 16. The famous 40-minute chase scene required no filming permits and caused multiple traffic accidents, moving on to illegal filmmaking. The iconic 40-minute chase sequence that comprises nearly 1/3 of the film's runtime was shot entirely without permits, insurance, or authorization from Long Beach or Los Angeles authorities. Halicki simply mounted cameras on Eleanor, positioned additional cameras in chase vehicles, then drove at high speeds through residential neighborhoods, commercial districts, and highways while his brother and friends drove police car replicas in pursuit. He filmed during rush hour traffic to capture maximum civilian vehicle density, creating authentic chaos as confused drivers reacted to what appeared to be genuine police chases. This guerrilla approach resulted in at least 7 documented civilian traffic accidents during filming, including 3 rear-end collisions, when drivers panic-braked watching Eleanor blast through intersections. One elderly driver suffered minor injuries after swerving to avoid a police replica and striking a parked vehicle, though she never filed a lawsuit because she didn't realize she'd witnessed a movie production. Long Beach police received dozens of calls reporting a yellow Mustang fleeing police at dangerous speeds. But by the time officers arrived, Halicki had already moved to different locations. The statute of limitations prevented authorities from prosecuting after the film's release revealed the illegal filming, leaving Halicki legally untouchable. Number 15. Halicki broke his back, legs, and ribs during filming and drove to the hospital himself. And speaking of danger, H.B. Halicki suffered 17 documented injuries during the 14-month production, including one spectacular crash that fractured his spine, both tibius and 4 ribs. The injury occurred during filming of Eleanor's climactic collision with the water tower support pole, when Halicki miscalculated his speed and struck the pole at 43 miles per hour instead of the intended 25. The impact compressed his spine, broke both legs below the knees, and cracked ribs on his left side. Despite these injuries, Halicki remained conscious and refused to let anyone call an ambulance, fearing medical professionals would shut down production. He instructed his crew to help him into a support vehicle, then drove himself 15 miles to Long Beach Memorial Hospital while suffering compound fractures and internal bleeding. Emergency room doctors couldn't believe Halicki had driven himself anywhere in his condition, with orthopedic surgeon Dr. Kenneth Martinez later calling it one of the most reckless displays of pain tolerance I've encountered in 30 years of practice. Halicki spent 6 weeks in traction, then returned to filming with a back brace and leg casts hidden under his costume, completing the movie's remaining scenes while heavily medicated on painkillers.
His front, insurance investigation. His business, stealing cars.
Number 14, the film's famous Eleanor name, became a legal nightmare that lasted 25 years. But here's the kicker about intellectual property chaos. When Jerry Bruckheimer and Disney prepared to remake Gone in 60 Seconds in 1998, they discovered that H.B. Halicki's widow Denise controlled the Eleanor trademark and character rights separately from the film rights, creating a complex legal situation. Halicki had trademarked the name Eleanor for automotive use in 1976, establishing it as intellectual property distinct from the film itself. Denise Halicki demanded creative control over Eleanor's design in the remake, insisting the car be a hero character rather than just a vehicle, and negotiated a back-end profit participation deal worth millions. The remake producers initially wanted to use a different car entirely to avoid Denise's demands, but test audiences responded negatively to versions without Eleanor's name and personality. This led to the decision to change Eleanor from a 1973 Mustang Mach 1 to a 1967 Shelby GT 500, completely transforming the iconic vehicle while retaining the protected name. Denise's control extended beyond the film, allowing her to license Eleanor branding for replica cars, merchandise, and automotive products, generating an estimated $15 million in revenue between 2000 and 2025 from a name her husband casually chose in 1973. Number 13, Halicki filmed the famous 128 car pileup without permission, on an active street moving on to the film's most audacious sequence. That legendary pileup scene showing 128 vehicles crashed in a massive traffic jam wasn't filmed on a closed set or controlled environment. Halicki staged it on an active section of Long Beach's Lakewood Boulevard during morning rush hour, relying on surprise and chaos to capture authentic reactions. He positioned 106 of his own junkyard vehicles along a half-mile stretch of road, then recruited drivers from his employees and random people he met at bars, promising them $50 each to participate. At Halicki's signal, drivers began intentionally rear-ending each other, creating a cascading collision that blocked the entire boulevard. 22 uninvolved civilian vehicles became trapped in the chaos and suffered collision damage, with Halicki quietly settling these claims by writing personal checks totaling $8,300 to avoid legal action. Long Beach police arrived approximately 8 minutes into filming, initially attempting to arrest Halicki until he convinced them he was making a movie and promised to clear the road immediately. Officers allowed him to finish filming while they rerouted traffic, though several threatened arrest if he ever pulled similar stunts within city limits. Halicki later admitted he expected to go to jail during filming, but figured the spectacular footage was worth potential prosecution that never materialized. Number 12. The Mustang's engine sound was actually dubbed from a Ford GT40 race car. And get this about audio manipulation. While Eleanor appears to produce an aggressive, race-tuned exhaust note throughout the chase, the actual 1973 Mustang's 351 Cleveland engine sounded relatively tame. Halicki realized during editing that Eleanor's stock exhaust system created disappointing audio that failed to match the visual intensity of high-speed driving. He solved this problem by visiting Ford's racing division headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan, and recording a genuine GT40 race car's engine at full throttle on a dynamometer. The GT40's 7-liter V8 produced a visceral roar that Halicki's sound editor overdubbed onto every Eleanor driving scene, creating an auditory illusion that transformed the Mustang into something far more aggressive. This technique created continuity problems because Eleanor's sound doesn't match its visual behavior, noticeably revving and downshifting when the car appears to be cruising steadily. Automotive enthusiasts spotted these discrepancies immediately upon the film's release, flooding Halicki with letters asking what modifications he'd made to produce such incredible engine sounds. Halicki never publicly admitted the audio was fake, instead allowing the legend to grow that Eleanor featured secret engine modifications. The GT40 recordings became iconic in their own right, subsequently licensed for dozens of automotive commercials and video games between 1980 and 2010. Number 11. Halicki cast his 72-year-old mother as a key character, and she performed her own stunts. But here's where family involvement got bizarre. H.B. Halicki cast his 72-year-old mother, Helen Halicki, as the junkyard office manager who coordinates parts of the car theft operation. Helen had never acted before and spoke English as a second language with a heavy Hungarian accent. But Toby insisted her authentic presence added realism that professional actors couldn't match. During filming of a scene requiring Helen to drive a tow truck through the junkyard, she accidentally accelerated instead of braking and crashed through a chain-link fence, continuing approximately 30 feet into an adjacent empty lot before stopping. Toby kept the cameras rolling throughout this accident, then wrote it into the script as an intentional comedic moment, having Helen deliver an improvised line in Hungarian expressing frustration. The unplanned crash appears in the final film, with many viewers assuming it was choreographed comedy rather than genuine accident. Helen suffered minor bruising but refused medical attention, insisting she could continue filming immediately. She appeared in all three of Halicki's Gone in 60 Seconds films, becoming a cult favorite among fans who appreciated her wonderfully awkward, authentic performance. Helen passed away in 1993 at age 91, having achieved unexpected fame as one of cinema's oldest stunt performers. Number 10. The film contains almost no dialogue for 35 minutes, during the chase sequence moving on to narrative boldness. From the moment Eleanor's chase begins until the water tower collision near the film's climax, Gone in 60 Seconds contains virtually zero dialogue for 35 continuous minutes. Halicki deliberately structured the film as primarily visual storytelling, believing that car chases with constant character banter destroyed tension and realism. He studied silent films from the 1920s, analyzing how directors like Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd sustained audience engagement through pure action without dialogue. This decision created distribution problems, with several theater chains initially rejecting the film because programmers worried audiences would become bored without constant talking. Halicki proved them wrong spectacularly. Test audiences remained completely engaged throughout the wordless chase, with many reporting they didn't even notice the absence of dialogue until afterward. Critics initially dismissed the film as amateur filmmaking that simply couldn't afford to record location sound properly, missing that Halicki had made a deliberate artistic choice. The extended dialogue-free sequence influenced later action filmmakers, including George Miller, who cited Gone in 60 Seconds as inspiration for Mad Max, Fury Road's minimal dialogue approach. Modern analysis recognizes Halicki's structure as sophisticated visual storytelling that trusted audiences to remain engaged through pure kinetic energy and automotive ballet. Number 9. Halicki jumped. Eleanor over 128 feet and nearly died when the landing broke. The subframe? And speaking of death-defying stunts, the film's famous jump where Eleanor launches off a small embankment and flies over traffic wasn't planned to achieve the distance it did. Halicki calculated he'd clear approximately 60 feet based on the approach speed and ramp angle, landing safely in a designated zone. But Eleanor accelerated faster than expected down the approach, hitting the ramp at 78 miles per hour instead of 55. The Mustang became airborne and traveled 128 feet, setting an unintentional record for longest jump by a production car during filming. The landing was catastrophic, with Eleanor's front subframe cracking on impact, both front wheels splaying outward at dangerous angles, and the oil pan rupturing against the pavement. Halicki somehow maintained control despite the violent impact, steering the damaged car approximately 300 feet further before stopping. He remained in the driver's seat for nearly 2 minutes after stopping, reportedly unable to move due to pain from spinal compression. Crew members initially thought Halicki was dead, approaching the car with extreme caution before discovering he'd only been knocked unconscious briefly. The jump appears in the final film, followed immediately by a cut, hiding the fact that Eleanor required 4 hours of emergency repairs before filming could continue. Number 8. The original Eleanor still exists but can never be legally driven on public roads. But here's the kicker about Eleanor's current status. The original 1973 Mustang Mach 1, used in filming, survived and remains in possession of the Halicki estate, displayed occasionally at automotive museums and film retrospectives. However, the car is no longer street legal and can never be registered for public road use due to extensive undocumented modifications and damage from filming. California Department of Motor Vehicles records show Eleanor's VIN was flagged as salvage total loss in 1975 after insurance adjusters examined the vehicle following production and determined structural damage exceeded 80% of replacement value. The car's frame rails show evidence of severe impact stress. Multiple sections have been welded and reinforced beyond factory specifications, and critical components were replaced with non-original parts during filming. Modern vehicle safety inspectors refuse to certify Eleanor as roadworthy, citing compromised structural integrity that would make the car dangerous to occupants during any collision. Denise Halicki spent approximately $60,000 between 1990 and 2000 attempting to restore Eleanor to operational condition, successfully making it drivable for short demonstrations, but unable to obtain legal registration. The car remains in climate-controlled storage, valued at approximately $1.5 million, despite being technically unable to fulfill its basic function as a road vehicle. Number 7. Halicki died in 1989 while filming Gone in 60 Seconds 2, and the footage still exists. Moving on to tragedy. H.B. Halicki died on August 20th, 1989, during filming of Gone in 60 Seconds 2 when a water tower support cable failed during a stunt sequence in Dunkirk, New York. Halicki was coordinating a scene where a 150-foot water tower would collapse onto several cars below, creating a spectacular destruction sequence. He positioned himself approximately 40 feet from the tower's base to supervise camera angles, assuming he maintained a safe distance from the controlled collapse zone. But when explosives severed the tower's support legs, an unexpected steel cable whipped backward under tension, striking Halicki in the head and killing him instantly. The fatal accident was captured on film by 3 different cameras positioned to record the water tower collapse, creating extremely disturbing footage that remains in the Halicki estate's possession. Denise Halicki has refused all requests to release or destroy this footage, stating it represents the final moments of her husband's life and deserves privacy. Several crew members present during the accident developed post-traumatic stress disorder, with 2 requiring extensive therapy. Production immediately ceased with the unfinished Gone in 60 Seconds, 2 remaining incomplete for 11 years until Denise oversaw a completion using existing footage and additional scenes filmed with body doubles. Number 6. The film was shot in mono audio. Because Halicki couldn't afford stereo recording equipment, and get this about technical limitations. Gone in 60 Seconds was recorded entirely in monaural audio using cheap microphones and a single-channel recording system because Halicki's $74,000 budget couldn't accommodate professional stereo equipment. He purchased a used Nagra tape recorder for $900, learning to operate it by reading the manual over a weekend. The mono recording created significant problems during post-production because Halicki couldn't separate dialogue, sound effects, and music into discrete channels for professional mixing. Everything recorded simultaneously onto a single audio track, meaning that fixing dialogue problems or adjusting effects volumes required re-recording entire scenes. The film's theatrical release in 1974 featured only mono sound, limiting its appeal to drive-in theaters and small cinemas that hadn't upgraded to stereo playback systems. When home video emerged in the 1980s, Halicki hired sound designers to create fake stereo versions by duplicating the mono track and applying slight audio delays and filtering, creating an illusion of stereo separation. This technique produced questionable results that audio enthusiasts immediately identified as artificial. Not until 2006 did modern restoration teams use advanced audio processing to create genuinely convincing stereo remixes, demonstrating how severe Haliki's original technical limitations had been. Number 5. Haliki purchased 47 real police vehicles at government auction and converted them for filming. But here's where production resourcefulness shined. Rather than painting civilian cars to resemble police vehicles, H.B. Haliki bought 47 authentic ex-police interceptors at California government surplus auctions between 1972 and 1973. These retired patrol cars cost between $300 and $600 each, significantly cheaper than purchasing civilian vehicles and applying professional police graphics. The cars retained original emergency equipment, including sirens, light bars, spotlights, and radio antennas, though Haliki removed the actual radio transceivers to avoid FCC violations. Many still displayed government inventory numbers and Department of Motor Vehicles enforcement markings that Haliki intentionally left visible, adding authenticity that civilian conversions couldn't match. Several vehicles featured bullet holes and collision damage from their law enforcement careers, which Haliki incorporated into the film's narrative as evidence of previous pursuits. He hired a local graphics shop to create generic police decals that resembled but didn't exactly replicate Long Beach or Los Angeles department markings, maintaining legal distance from official insignia. This approach created problems during filming when actual police encountered Haliki's fake patrol cars and assumed they were encountering fellow officers, resulting in several confused radio calls and near confrontations between real cops and Haliki's crew, driving convincingly authentic-looking interceptors through city streets. Number 4. The film's success inspired over 300 copycat independent car chase movies. In the late 70s, moving on to cultural impact, Gone in 60 Seconds' massive financial success spawned an entire subgenre of independent automotive action films between 1975 and 1982, with over 300 direct imitations produced worldwide. Independent filmmakers across America, Europe, and Australia recognized Haliki's formula: minimal plot, maximum vehicular destruction, small budgets, huge profits. These copycat productions included titles like Crash, Smash and Bash, Thunder and Lightning, Hot Wire, Moving Violation, and Gone in 70 Seconds, all attempting to replicate Haliki's guerrilla filmmaking approach and financial windfall. The overwhelming majority failed commercially and artistically, lacking Haliki's instinctive understanding of pacing, authentic vehicular chaos, and pure kinetic energy. Most featured terrible acting, incomprehensible plots, and boring chase sequences that exposed how difficult Haliki's supposedly simple formula actually was to execute. Only a handful achieved even modest success, including Dirty Mary Crazy Larry and The Junkman, which themselves inspired further imitations. The trend crashed definitively in 1983, when home video shifted audience preferences toward polished Hollywood productions and away from rough independent features. Modern retrospectives recognize Gone in 60 Seconds as the apex of a brief exploitation cinema movement that demonstrated how one successful template could temporarily reshape an entire market segment. Number 3. Haliki screened the film at drive-ins for free to generate word of mouth before theatrical release. And speaking of marketing genius, H.B. Haliki couldn't afford traditional advertising when completing Gone in 60 Seconds, so he developed an unconventional guerrilla marketing strategy. He contacted 37 drive-in theaters across Southern California, offering free screenings if they'd program his film as a surprise midnight show without announcing the title in advance. Theater owners agreed because free content cost them nothing, billing the screenings only as special midnight automotive feature. Haliki attended these anonymous screenings personally, walking through parking lots during intermissions to gauge audience reactions. The response exceeded his wildest expectations, with drive-in crowds erupting in applause during chase sequences and demanding to know the film's title so they could see it again. This organic enthusiasm generated powerful word of mouth across Southern California's car enthusiast community, creating grassroots demand before any theatrical distributor had even seen the finished film. When Halicki finally approached distributors in June 1974, he arrived with documented evidence of audience enthusiasm from 37 separate screenings, proving commercial viability through actual ticket sales rather than test audience cards. This unconventional validation convinced distributors to offer significantly better terms than typically given to first-time independent filmmakers, allowing Halicki to retain back-end profits that eventually made him wealthy. Number 2, the film features 56 minutes of actual crimes being committed on camera. But here's the kicker about legal exposure. Legal analysts reviewing Gone in 60 Seconds have identified approximately 56 minutes of total runtime depicting genuine crimes being committed by Halicki and his crew during unauthorized guerrilla filming. These documented offenses include 32 counts of reckless driving, 18 counts of reckless endangerment, 14 traffic light violations captured on film, 9 incidents of vehicular trespass onto private property, 7 instances of driving without required permits on public roads, 5 documented cases of property damage to civilian vehicles, and 3 separate incidents of fleeing from actual police officers who didn't realize they were encountering a film production. Additionally, the film shows Halicki destroying a fire hydrant, damaging public infrastructure worth approximately $4,000 in 1973 money, and driving through a construction zone while workers fled for safety. Had prosecutors chosen to charge Halicki after the film's release revealed these offenses, he potentially faced decades in jail and hundreds of thousands in fines. However, Long Beach and Los Angeles district attorneys declined prosecution, reasoning that successful enforcement would require proving Halicki's specific intent to commit crimes rather than make a movie, creating reasonable doubt that would likely result in acquittal. The statute of limitations expired within 3 years anyway, permanently shielding Halicki from the consequences for one of cinema's most extensively documented crime sprees. Number 1. The original film directly inspired over $2 billion in total franchise revenue, including the remake. And the number 1 weirdest fact, H.B. Halicki's $74,000 independent film ultimately generated over $2 billion in total franchise revenue when accounting for the 2000 remake, home video sales, merchandise, replica car licensing, and continued theatrical reissues. The original film earned approximately $40 million through various theatrical and drive-in releases between 1974 and 1990. Home video added another $53 million between VHS, Laserdisc, and DVD releases through 2025. But the real explosion came from Jerry Bruckheimer's 2000 remake starring Nicolas Cage, which grossed $237 million worldwide and spawned massive merchandise revenue. Denise Halicki's retention of Eleanor trademark rights generated an estimated $15 million from licensing replica builders and merchandise manufacturers. The combined franchise valuation, including video game licenses, toy cars, posters, and related media, exceeded $2 billion by 2023, making it one of the most financially successful film franchises relative to original investment in cinema history. Halicki never witnessed this empire, having died in 1989 before the remake era began, but his widow Denise transformed his guerrilla filmmaking experiment into a multi-generational entertainment property that validates his reckless 1973 gamble more thoroughly than he could have imagined. 20 weird facts proving the 1973 Mustang Mach 1's journey from personal daily driver to cinema legend involved more danger, illegality, and accidental genius than anyone expected. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that like button, subscribe for more automotive cinema deep dives, and keep hustling.